Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. This is another episode of Wireframe, and today we're going to be talking about tokens of influence. But of course, before we get to that, I want to check the audience, make sure everyone's looking good. Yes, you're looking good. Okay, so a lot of things actually has happened in the past couple of hours, days, I guess, since the last episode. We talked about Apple Glass last episode, and obviously the internet has exploded in terms of the opinions about Apple Glass. Lots of different things in terms of different directions of people saying that something about craft, and which is all bullshit, because really it's obvious. The year and a half that people are saying that this took to make something inaccessible is wild to me. I mean, in one of those days, they could have figured out that contrast was bad. But we talked about that already. The internet is already blowing up about it. I don't need to speak about it any longer. There are other things to talk about, including last night I went to a content design meetup here in New York, and I have to say I am wildly jealous of the amount of interest that the meetup has had. Wildly successful. Lots of content designers that were in that room, immediately from all over the country. I was speaking with the content design team at Disney, and the three people that I spoke to were all from different places in the United States. And I was like, oh my God, like, why are you all here? I'm imagining it happened to coincide with some other stuff that was going on potentially, but I'm just blown away, specifically by that content design community. They've really been growing nicely. I spoke at a panel with that community, I believe somewhere around in Christmas. Someone actually recognized me in there from that panel. But had another great panel about leadership in content design. Had some folks from, let's see, it was Airbnb, Instacart, and PayPal that were all there speaking. But other folks that were representing for other industries were there. I love being a content design advocate, which is what I was kind of introducing myself as, because I don't do content design as a regular thing like the rest of the room does. But that was a really great meetup. I'm looking forward to the next one as usual, and it really does light a fire under me a little bit about getting my own meetup event thing off the ground. I've had my own difficulties practically internally trying to justify some sort of successful event that I could run. I've been having it in my mind for a long time. I've probably spoken on Wireframe before. I just need to get over myself and do it, and it's gonna happen. I just need a little help. So anyway, really great successful event yesterday. Today there was a doubleheader, which I mentioned earlier this week. The question with Ben Callahan happened at noon Eastern time today with Lauren Laprete. And I messaged her actually last night to give her some good luck, and I told her to break a leg or detach a component, whatever that, it's a meeting in our design system world. She said it was so sick, which I'm sure that meant that everything worked out really nicely. So I'm looking forward to knowing what all that went down and how that was about. But otherwise, the other thing that was going on was a panel with Fareed and the folks from Infra, who coordinated a whole bunch of us to get together to talk about design tokens. So you had Brad Frost, of course, as a part of it. Samantha Gordashko, I think I'm pronouncing that right, basically working with the Token Studio and that organization and community, myself, and Kalig, who I'm not about to go ahead and try to pronounce his last name, unfortunately, but he's one of the chairs on the Design Tokens community group. So the four of us, including, of course, Fareed, five of us, we're just jamming and talking about tokens. A lot of experiences in tokens, a lot of opinions about tokens, and I was actually surprised about a couple of the different takes that some people had. I'm actually going to call out Samantha's take because she's been working very closely with the Token Studio folks. And from my perspective, I always thought that Token Studio was overkill. And I was very surprised that she basically agreed over the conversation that we had. That Token Studio is kind of an overkill thing, and I'm really appreciative of the candor that she provided in there because you know, it's easy to defend, you know, the group that you support, but to really show the community the truth out there about your opinion about, you know, your experience in these tokens, I think is really powerful. So I really thank the candor that her and the rest of the group had today. But speaking of this group of people that were talking about tokens, one of the things that I was actually looking forward to speaking about in the group today that we didn't have a chance to, I want to talk about now here later in the day about. And I've been talking to a couple of people about this recently. It is going to be part of the Mise en Mode book that I'm currently writing. But the big idea is effectively the title of this episode. It's Tokens of Influence. The big idea is the idea of influence, okay? Historically, what we've been doing when it comes to design tokens is we have some token name and then we assign a value to it. And that's a very one-to-one kind of thing. And yes, you certainly can talk about one-to-one to one-to-one as aliasing goes through, but ultimately the value that you set at the higher level typically trickles all the way down and hits the UI as is. Are there certain computations and algorithms that you could put to manipulate it on the way down? Yes, but you know, when you say button color is blue, that button eventually at the end of the line will be that blue, more or less. Okay, and that's very common for most of our systems that are out there. And for many systems out there, there's lots of tokens. I mentioned this in our panel today, is that the big problem when it comes to design tokens that everyone's trying to, you know, manage, and this is where the tools are coming in, is token bloat. There's too many tokens. So for each one of those individual tokens you have, you need to assign a specific value to, even if those values repeat or are mundane or repetitive or what, you know, very challenging to curate all those values. So that's one thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind, is that we are curating, that's the act of curating, selecting a value and then having it, of course, end up in the UI. The second thing I want to mention is that there's an importance when it comes to personalization out there. In fact, there's a blog post I wrote earlier this week called Accent Color that kind of tries to raise something about personalization in there. That's a little bit of a side story, but there's an importance behind personalization. It is one of the tenets behind inclusive design, right? The more personalized your experience is, the easier it is for you to use it because it is your experience. It's something that's behind you. Well, the trouble is that every time that we have some designer or design team consider what a user experience should be, it is most often than not against user expectations as much as we'd like it to be. And on top of which, it's not practical for a particular design team to be designing for an individual user, right? And their needs specifically. We talk about personas, which are groups of users, but really, you know, in terms of inclusive design, we should be in the mindset of designing for individuals, which is really, really hard. And a lot of resources would need to be used to try to do that. But the better experience fundamentally would be that every experience is specific to that user. And we have some mechanisms of that already baked into our devices, right? So like we can choose if we want to typically have light mode or dark mode. We can choose the zoom level. We can choose different themes potentially. We can choose the cursor size on our desktop as I normally do. So there's lots of different accessibility things and also personalization things that we can change for our devices, right? And that makes our experience with our device a lot better. But then what happens a lot of the time, of course, is that people will visit sites or apps and then they will have their own spin on the way that something should be presented or experienced. And it's that context switching that ends up having a lot of friction when it comes to experiential design. So let me get to the bottom point here. What I'd like to see is the ability for us not to curate tokens, specifically with values, but to instead provide an amount of influence of a particular value to a user interface. So what that means is that instead of you specifically saying that the button color is blue, you instead say that this is my brand, and the way that my brand is meant to be portrayed, please deliver it to this user experience in such a way that that the user is expecting it. Now, I know that sounds very generic, maybe a little abstract, but again, the idea basically is that I would like to have my user be as comfortable as possible when achieving their goal or their task, okay? And it's also understandably important to have brand trust to know that I am actually looking at products from Home Depot versus products from Deem Hopo, right? So that's very important to know that I'm going to Home Depot. However, I don't need the huge splash of orange on my page to denote that I'm on Home Depot. A logo is fine. I mean, in fact, when you are on Google Shopping and you're seeing products there, it's identified that where these products are from their logos and other information. So even that experience in and of itself, which reduces all of the branding down to very, I mean, obviously it's just Google branding, but reduces all of that branding down to you just completing the task, I think is very powerful. So again, imagine this same kind of experience, which again, everything is set up just for you, and you can identify in areas where it's appropriate, this is this brand, and you can have the brand loyalty, the brand trust built in. So, because again, the color orange is not going to affect me in terms of the way that I interact with a particular product. It's my experience that I've had with Home Depot before that's going to influence me using them again or using somebody else, right? It's the actual physical thing that you're doing. So, you know, the colors at the end of the day don't matter. The branding at the end of the day doesn't actually matter to the users fundamentally in terms of their decisions. It's really if the product is working or not. So that means, again, that I believe we should be focusing on user experience, right? And then having the brand influence the user experience. Not dictate what it looks like, influence what, you know, the presentation is, right? So there's hints of orange in places, not fully orange the whole way through, right? There's hints of, you know, logos. There's hints of some typography styles. Hints of things, influences of things, not direct, you know, values of choices that designers have decided to make. That kind of thing is certainly a little bit scary for some designers out there, right? Who believe that it's been their God-given right to make decisions based on what UI is. But again, I think the folks that are really focused on a user-centric approach to design, I think they would align with that kind of thing, right? To align to say, you know, the design gets out of the way of my goal. That's the thing that we continue to miss over here. And, you know, we talked about, you know, Apple Liquid Glass the other day. Design's getting in the way, right? That's what's happening there. Design is actually getting in the way of us being productive because we can't see the thing that's on the page. And I talked about the performance. It's even slowing our computers down. This particular kind of design. So there's a huge effort of us having to walk some of this stuff back. I think we should also, of course, again, rethink the way that we're considering providing values to an overall interface in terms of influence. I think there's an opportunity here as well to have some of the other things that are on the device contribute to this kind of stuff. So as an example, again, having light and dark, I mean, we have system colors called like canvas and canvas text that provide those values to us. And with a little bit of color mix, we can provide a little bit of branding on that where it's appropriate. Same thing culturally, right? The device attached to that user should identify, hey, you know, red isn't a good color for this person for whatever reason that they decide. So when we show things that are critical to that user, maybe we don't use red. And it's only, again, for that user, right? Maybe you need some other treatment. So I think that's the thing that I'd like people to consider is instead of, again, forcing values on our users and forcing particular design, I like people to instead think, how could I influence and provide influence of the brand to an experience such that the brand is set back from achieving the goal. So anyway, something to consider. I'll leave it at that. In terms of events and other things that are going on, there are a couple of events that are happening next week. I will speak about those probably early in the week with another show because I do need to do some errands really quick, unfortunately. In terms of jobs, I do know that there was a job posted in the Design System Slack channel for Spectrum, not Adobe Spectrum, the company called Spectrum. I believe they're looking for a contractor for their design system over there. So take a peek at that when you get an opportunity if you are looking out there for a job. Although it's a contract role, so maybe not exactly the same kind of job that most people are looking for right now, but hopefully that's a little bit helpful. Anywho, like I said, a couple of blog posts that came out here, and I have other things to speak about that potentially might speak about tomorrow in the event that time permits. But other than that, it was great seeing you folks. Hopefully you learned some things today and get your wheels spinning a little bit. I hope I saw you, or you saw me, at the event earlier today. And for events coming up in the future, there's some really good ones that I'm really excited to attend coming up. And other than that, play nice in the comments. I'll see you next time. Bye.